We'll just call it Tom Rock.
Don Rothwell. Or Todd.
This is Tom, you vice chair, right?
Sounds like something. It did, my face got red, that's why I kept my hat on.
Have you had that hat on all day?
It did, my face.
You got that.
It didn't take my face on.
That Fountain Day was awesome.
It was.
And the street dance was awesome. We had more people street dance this year than we've had the last 2 years that I've
I'm a little
been.
concerned though, we might have to get that street resurfaced real soon because some of them folks are really rubbing that asphalt.
I know, that's right. Did you see that one little man, that little woman was filming? I was cracking up.
Oh,
I would be easy to say 75 to 80. He was carrying that paper that road. He was cracking up. And she was filming it. One, I can't remember her name. She was having a good
I
time.
think I was worried about one of them's hips because it was swaying them.
I can tell you now, none of those little people need knee replacements are knee replacements for that.
Leave old people alone.
What
What else have they gotta do?
He wasn't
Just
even there
wear
to watch
that.
how much fun.
I'll tell you what. I
Dave,
got the video.
Dave, what are you talking about, Dave? This is more of we, isn't it?
I
We
was
and
just
us?
saying, aren't you somewhere up in there?
Huh?
Aren't you somewhere up in there?
No.
Oh,
I'm the young.
One of these days, we got to look at the incentive when they had that hand.
I know, I thought
I just remember, right?
I just love watching that. They have a time.
Hey, listen.
I
I got
remember
a
they
sister
played
that's
really
big time in today. Deborah's big time in
Yeah,
today.
she was out there dancing.
And buddy, she takes that food, and if you think about that, that's one of the greatest things because they're, it gives people an opportunity to interact with one another. It gives them exercise. I think it's
I was just saying, I wish we could get our younger people, we say, our younger people to learn those old dances, because those things are never done. You're not gonna always be able to drop, stop, and
Well,
stop.
you know. Look, let me tell you something. Those 20s dances are gone too. You know, those 20s dances are gone too.
Hey, that's doing the twist out there.
Oh, yeah, man, they was doing the twist, even the little bitty kids was doing twist, that was just the cutest thing, yeah.
Were you out there dancing?
I was trying to keep up with Dr. B, and 2 granddaughters.
Hey, we did something at the senior citizen and they were playing music. We had.
Move like you're a robot and you fit right in.
It's a move a little bit.
Hey, so is that when you get ready for the, you got the place where you go?
Good. Now I figure the best thing to do is do a little explaining where your hands are going to. We got a bottle of water. And Kristen is back in the saddle. And the windows are open.
Oh my Lord, you need somebody actually good, you need some drone people to do the rest, you really please.
No,
Not more like
Richard's worried about snipers. Our next one. Oh, teacher.
I've already made that, you had live,
they're going to teach us how to and to assess the amount of blood as to whether or not it's trapped. And they said, are they using, they said some of it is from the school, some of it is other. I'm telling you.
live shooter training up there forever.
Hey,
And then had to take the
we
test.
actually, they picked the entire script and they put everybody had a role in it. Let me tell you, my role was with several other teachers. We were in the classroom
right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to call to order the City Council Committee's meeting of September 24, 2018. At this time, please stand with us for the invocation. Please pray. Bow with us, please. Dear God, in Jesus' name, we rejoice and thank you for this day. Thank you for this city. Thank you for the citizens. Thank you for these leaders of our city. And I pray you just bless this meeting, give us wisdom, knowledge, and discernment in discussing the matters of this city. Pray for our citizens, and we pray for their health and well-being. Pray for those that are sick, that you just touch them and give them wellness. Pray for those that are grieved over the loss of loved ones, you give them comfort. And we just thank you and praise you for all this. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the published agenda, however, with certain modifications with respect to Mr. Wilson's needing to go to a meeting in a nearby city. Later on, we want to move the Parks and Recreation Committee section to the beginning. And also, we have 3 items listed there, 1, 2, and 3. We'll go in reverse order, 3, 2, and 1, when we get started on Parks and Recreation Committee. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the published agenda with those modifications.
Motion to approve with the changes and modifications.
Second.
I have moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so that will bring us to Parks and Recreation Committee. Item number 3, report by the City Recreation Director regarding proposals for the installation of new fencing adjacent to certain sections of the ball fields in the city park in order to replace current fencing, which is too deteriorated to repair. Mr. Wilson.
On the fencing. This will be the last agenda item you have for the last tab.
Report on fencing is, I'm meeting with them this week.
I can't hear you.
The report on fencing, I'm meeting with the reps this week. I got 2 scheduled this week.
That's what you told me, that's what the memo said.
Okay. My report here today was for the playground. The info for the playground.
So the playground instead of the ball field.
Yes.
Okay. And that's what our memo is. We got a memo is to say.
Okay, yeah.
So, do we need to do anything about that since that's on the agenda?
Well, I think, Mr. Wilson does need to go over, I mean, like you said, on the fencing, we'll have that for you next week. With the playground, you've got information here that probably would be good to review it, or at least take a look and see what the bids you got, and any comments or questions you have at this point.
Thank you.
While we're doing that, yes, we're going to pass out the renderings.
This is the playground, right?
Yes.
We're still with the playground.
This is for one playground, right?
No, this is for all, it should be for 3. 3 different price.
3 different playgrounds?
No, the quotes are from 3 different.
Okay.
But this is just for one playground. It's for the new playground
Yes.
we're getting?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it any in this gonna update the old playground we've got?
Yes, but that's going to be after we.
Okay. Okay,
It's not a part of this bid.
okay.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hand out the renderings that I received from each one of the companies, so that everybody can get a visual to go with the. Okay.
Did you get both of them? No, everybody had both of them.
All right, I got
You
one.
have one more, got this one. you can-
Yes.
This one, need one more that doesn't have a lot of blue on it. That one you get.
This one. And we have one more coming.
Need one more.
Everybody else. Okay, so those are the rendered drawings of what each company came back with. And as you can see at the bottom, each name, Game Time, Play World, and then Play South, which is also Burke.
Is there something in these pictures that we're not seeing? Is this the entire?
That's, from that company, that's the entire.
That's the entire thing, and this is the entire thing on this?
Yes,
So we don't have any swings on this one?
no.
Okay.
And that one also, when I got the quotes back, I pretty much ruled them out for their pricing. Well, I'm sorry, it's not that one, it's the Play World. So this one here, their price had already reached about what we had. That was about $64,000.
You ruled that?
I mean, I
Was that our budget?
Yes,
Why?
it was at our budget. With the other two, we have room to either add to it or do some upgrades to the existing part that we have.
Okay. And I guess I want to ask a question, Joe. Where on there, okay, let's take this one right here, for example, this Play World one.
Okay.
I guess I'm trying to figure out, we're not including our handicap kids in here.
Yes, all of these are ADA,
But how are they gonna swing? There's not a swing on here for their wheelchair, nor is there a swing on here for them to sit in.
it's an ADA swing right here.
Is that what that one
Yes,
is?
sir. Yes,
So that's the only one though that's got the swings on it. That's one you said you ruled out.
yes.
Okay.
Wait, oh, wait a minute. So you ruled out Play World.
I ruled that out. I mean, it's still here on the table for you all.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
the other two don't have anything for our kids, right? If they're in a wheelchair, there's no, where are they going if they're in a wheelchair?
These are, from what they told me, everything is ADA. They have what I don't call a transfer station on each one of them. So it's just like the one we have now. It's an area on the backside of the playground where you can pull your wheelchair up to and transfer to the piece of equipment. If you notice, if you look at see the white, the drawings on the back of it, or the specs on the back of it, you see, they all pretty much have the ADA compliance, with them. So this is Game Time. You see how they say ADA black curve, and they'll pull up to see the transfer platform right
You
there?
talking about here?
Yes, ma'am. It's the same for the Play World one as well.
How about Play South?
Play South. Here, it says provide and install 4 43 by 12 playground borders and 1 ADA accessible ramp.
Okay.
So they're all ADA acceptable. I mean, they pass the specs for ADA, so. Or ADA compliant.
So is this something that we need to be looking over and being prepared for Monday night? Or exactly what we need to be doing tonight, Mr. Arthur?
Well, on Monday night, if you're ready to make a decision as to which of these companies you will use, if you're ready to do that. So tonight, it's an opportunity just for you to get acquainted with it, ask questions. We talk with Joe during the week, but when we get Monday night,
Be prepared one
be
way or the
prepared
other.
one way or the other if you're ready to make a decision.
All right.
There's only one, Joe, that had warranty information. How about the other two? One of them's got 3 years on the product and the installation.
I have records to So Burke, the Place South group, they have a 15-year warranty, which is from Place South, and is also backed by a Burke, I said that backwards. Burke has a 15-year warranty on their parts.
And that's for place
That's
out.
for Place South, yes. That's Place South's standard
15-year
warranty.
parts.
Yes. And then Burke also backs that for a lifetime guarantee on anything that breaks or chips or things like that. They'll back their price for a lifetime.
They're the same one that has the other one had the 3-year warranty. It's Game Time. It's got the 3-year labor warranty.
Yes.
How about on the other?
Play World, they have anywhere from, they got different, they broke theirs down, plastics up to 15 years, paint 5 years, hardware has a lifetime warranty. Any of the decks that you see have a 15-year warranty on them. And the shading is a 5-year warranty.
That was the most expensive one.
Yes.
Joe, with what you were just reciting, is all of that included in here, some additional
Yes,
information?
it should be, and if not, then I have it all here.
I was gonna say, if there's anything that you think is additional in terms of warranty other than what's on these sheets you gave me Friday, if you would get that to me tomorrow, and we can give it to mayor and council members to have that as a, think about that during the week.
It's not in here, so this one.
I do have a question, Joe. Which one do you like the best and why?
I like the Burke, the Place South, because you get more space and bang for your buck. Yes. The capacity is bigger, you know, they hold, their capacity is larger than the other two. Plus, they were under our budget. Like I said, the extra money that we have, we can use to touch up the existing playground.
That one certainly looks more colorful.
And the colors are, the colors are all, we can change them to, you know, once we decide who we're gonna go with, we can change the colors along. The colors are not concrete.
I'm like Karen now, I would like to know what's there for the handicap.
There's a transfer station, there's not, once you go to that transfer station, there is not a place in there you can put a wheelchair without going upstairs. That was my thought right there, altogether. I mean, everything here's got stands. I get the transfer station, but then what do you do if they can't walk? Joe, I know you like this one. If we take this one, is there a place to add swings and stuff at a later time?
Yes.
Are we gonna have enough room to put swings and stuff in there? Because the one thing that's at that old playground they stay on all the time is those swings.
Yes, and that's another thing about the space. You have to have a certain amount of space on the front side and the back side of the swing, so.
Okay.
It's always been the add-on.
Have you ever looked at adding the older age devices? Have you ever priced that out to see what
Older, like,
there is specific equipment for your older kids, I guess your teenagers, we have a lot of that that's out there playing on that equipment. And I think it's called Meads Park in Blairsville. They've actually got a playground in there, so it's 100% dedicated to those older tees. Everything is made a lot different than what I think I made pictures so I could show those to you. But, you go out there and all the time, there's teenagers playing out there, and you thought, they're playing, give them something to play on. Have you ever looked at that or thought about that?
I have. They break these down into age groups, so, these ones here are 5 to 12 year olds.
Okay. But we have a lot of 12 to
Once we get,
15-year-olds out there playing. So if we give them something, if they want to play, that to me looks like the most active thing is rec park. There's always somebody playing on it, so it might be that you look at maybe one or two of those to see if there's not. Because it looks like it would be kind of, there's always one or two out there that are trying their best to get something going fast and down, whatever. These are made to give that, to hold that up. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, the space inside of inside the border is a lot less than what they're calling for on the ground cover on the balls. Like this one here that we were just looking at.
which one is Bert?
Yeah. This is Bert.
It's calling for 1,940 square feet inside the border area. And they've got figured in 2,835 square feet of ground cover. For the balls, so they got almost 1,000 more feet.
Well, as far as you talking about the wood chips, well, they have to come up to a certain height in the peg, so.
That's 8 inches thick.
Okay. So
But they still got figured in a minimum of 2,835 square feet at 8 inches thick. Just something like that. They got more mulch figured in than what they got, they're showing square feet to cover.
Okay, other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just looking ahead to next Monday night, we'll be asking you to bring your books back with you. You may want to take what Joe has given you and put it in your back inside pocket, since Parks and Rec is at the back of the book. They keep all your Parks and Rec stuff right there.
Makes sense. Any other questions?
Yeah, I noticed on this place Southland, we've got a grant in there. Is that something we would apply for, or is that something they're giving us if we take them?
No, I have to fly.
So we could use that grant on any of them?
Well, Game Time gave us they have a grant going, I applied for that one. Play World didn't have anything on their website, but the Game Time Play South applied for grants and received those.
Okay, so Jane Town's grant was 14,000. Okay, their grant was 30,000. So we didn't get anything to Play World?
No.
Okay, other questions? Any other? Audience? Okay. Where did we go, which one were we going with next? I said we're going to, okay. Is it, report on the results of Wednesday, October 19th, special meeting of the City of Temple Parks and Recreation Committee, including a report concerning suggestions, concerns, and comments received from the Temple residents during the meeting at the City Recreation Department. That's the one that you have in front of you. We basically, it was an extremely, I guess, enlightening discussion. Quite a few people represented there were people from the football world, people from the soccer world, cheerleading, I think the volleyball and maybe the others. But just kind of as a quick review, volleyball and softball. Volleyball had a couple of people who wanted to play, a couple of people who wanted to do softball. The biggest problem with that is that it's very difficult to recruit and retain coaches. That became a part of a big discussion I'll share with you in a minute. Cheerleading, 14, football team, five teams, 79 players. Cheerleading, 14 with 20 on each, so you'll see cheerleading and football have about the same number. Eight soccer teams with about 9 players on each of those. A baseball team with 12. We have an adult flag football league that is participating with our rec department. There's 7 teams of those, and with 17 with 12 with 10 on each of those. Now that league is charged a fee rather than the individual players paying it. One of the discussions was ways to recruit coaches. That right now, that the main thing is happening is if you got a kid playing on the team, that's where the recruiting of coaches. So there was a discussion of maybe looking outside that group, looking for ways to get coaches. There is a big discussion about, the female competitor versus male competitor versus, there are 3 men that are connected with the rec department, no women, maybe looking to find a volunteer female coordinator that could help with the recruiting of the female coaches or those events that are for the females. You don't have to be I guess you could be I don't think that any of our coaches are stipulated one gender or the other. I didn't ask that question. So you could be recruiting women to coach baseball, women to coach football, anything out there. But that was a big deal in a way to try to get that out to more of the community, to let them know that if you're willing to do it, to come and to be a part and to go through the training, that type of thing. The other thing was that there was questions about the scheduling, referees, umpires, and so forth. That was stated that that's the responsibility of the Temple Rec Department, and that any problems that dealt with that were y'all's responsibility. Is that correct? Okay. There was one discussion, Joe, I was going to ask you about along that line. Do we have teams where the coaches are having to ref their own games? That was one thing that I forgot to ask that night because there was a parent.
I wouldn't say it's a rule, but in soccer, if there are no umpires, then they would typically grab a coach from the opposing team and a coach from the home team.
Okay, so if there's only one coach doing each one of those, are they still?
Then they shouldn't.
They shouldn't do it. So is there a league that provides the what do they call referees?
Yeah, no, you have to go out and really find your own. There's no, for soccer, there's no organization for referees. You have to go out and find your own soccer.
Oh, so there is no league to provide those. So are we actively recruiting referees
Yes.
and doing training?
Yes.
Are we using the high school soccer?
We use some high school soccer players. We use some players from the West Georgia. They come down and ref games for us. And that's really it for our.
There were 8 teams. That could be a. So Carroll County has no kind of league, no kind of umpire league, a referee league, or anything that you can pull from. All right. So anybody that plays soccer, there would be an opportunity for you to get into it. The other thing that was discussed a lot was the fact that there is a deadline of July the 31st is a deadline to sign up for the fall sports. And the problem with that is that is before school starts back, and that means that the recruitment has to take place in May. So the flyers have to go out. Then after school starts back, flyers go out again, right?
Yes.
In the fall, and there's signs all over town, pretty much. But
And we also extended for, we know school starts and open house coming. We also extended for a week or two.
Right. But the problem with that is that, the recruitment tools, as you can see down there, the signs, those mobile signs are out, flyers, personal recruitment at open house and Facebook. And the only thing that I'll tell you that was a red flag to me, Joe, and that was the fact that a lot of this is happening after school starts back, and we're giving them the 2 weeks. But any kid that comes in that pays a $20 late fee,
It's after,
July
after,
31st.
that's 2 weeks after registration, yes.
All right. Has there ever
After
been,
it's extended.
yeah, has there ever been any thought about changing that registration deadline to avoid parents having to pay that $20? Especially after,
We don't charge anybody a late fee unless we don't even stick by it. I mean, you might get one that comes when the season starts and they want to join and we've already ordered uniforms and we have to add a uniform or something. So if it is,
so that late fee is waived. There's an actual late fee there, but it's waived?
it had to be a very different circumstance for us to charge somebody a late fee.
Okay, all right. And then the cost of participation, that was discussed a good bit in 2 different places. If you, everything is a $50 fee to participate, except for cheerleading, and cheerleading is $80, and the reason for that is that the uniform costs more, and you have to do that. I did have a parent ask a question afterwards that called me and I didn't have an answer. Now, if their daughter had a uniform, did they have to pay the $80? Okay, so if they paid the $80 to their child, they can ask for that $30 refund.
Sure.
Okay. All right, again, you can see the recruitment tools, signs, flyers, personal recruitment at Open House, Facebook. Here's what the concerns were with this. That the message is not getting home. We have a lot of the kids and a lot of the parents who, and they were talking about it there, that they do not get those flyers. That was one of the big things. And for whatever reason, we actually had people who said they didn't see the signs that advertised the recreation. So, you know, that is something there. The other was that no one is finding the rec department at the open house. So that means maybe you're going to have to get a little more aggressive with that so they know you're there. Make sure the principal's noting where you are with your flyers and your recruitment tools. Ideas about how to get those flyers to the hands of the kids. That may be have to have somebody personally deliver them to a secretary and talk to the secretary about dividing them up and getting volunteers to do that, and making sure that they're getting home. One of the suggestions that was made was that if a coach has a child playing ball or playing with the athletic department, that they get a discount so that there's an incentive for the coach or the individual coach. So that was one of the recreations out of there. And I don't understand why we get a complaint of lack of organization and a plan that is understood by the participants. We get a lot of disconnect with the communication. One of the complaints was it's very difficult to find somebody at the rec department to pay fees or answer questions. That's because there's 2 people, and if they're out on the field or whatever the case may be, it's very difficult for them to be in there. I think it's kind of misleading that the Facebook says that, the office hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then they get there and there's nobody there because of the nature of the deal. But it's my understanding that the city supplies 2 cell phones, right? So have you ever thought about maybe having just those cell phone numbers posted on the door and saying, if you're here for questions or to pay for the fees or whatever the case may be, to call one of those numbers?
No, I haven't done
That might be something to help, just so that if a parent is driven all the way in, they go to the rec department and there's nobody there, it might be to utilize the phone system and just have the numbers so that they could get them. The next this one drew a long discussion, and it was the corporate sponsorship that goes on. One of the examples was there were 3 baseball teams, the exact same age group, and one of the parents did not think that the bats that was being supplied by the recreation department was appropriate, and that he took out of his pocket $350 and bought a bat for that team, and they started hitting the ball better. And you know as well as I do, equipment makes a big difference. I mean, a $350 bat would not make me a baseball player. I can assure you that. But it is my understanding that it can certainly make a difference in the effectiveness of hitting the ball with the proper equipment. Also, the league that we're a part of with our football, and that, what was, I forgot, I didn't write down the name of that association.
West Georgia Youth Football League.
West Georgia, that's simple enough. West Georgia Youth Football League, which says that we cannot rent our fields for, the travel football. However, it does say that you can have, it says you can have multiple uniforms, right?
No, it doesn't mention anything about it.
It doesn't stop you from doing
It
it.
doesn't stop you.
As a result of that, it's always looking for the pretty thing, so that some of the football teams are actually seeking corporate sponsorships so that they can get jerseys that the kid can have his name on the back and all that kind of stuff. And then of course, when you hit the cheerleading, you get to the cheerleading, there's additional equipment they always want. And so the whole thing with that whole corporate sponsorship is that a reality is that kids go where they have things. If a cheerleading squad is giving them pretty things at Billerica, they're attracted to go to Billerica. The equipment thing. Equipment does make a difference. I have bats, practice equipment, the slide dummy and all those kind of things. So one of this but if we're not careful, this can create a have and have not dichotomy that stresses the donor community. That if you have a parent who has a really good job, or a parent that's wealthy, then your team's going to get the things. And if you don't have that, the other one doesn't. It's a rec department, so do we really want that? But one of the big suggestions that I thought that came out of this was maybe we should go for the corporate sponsorship and use the corporate sponsorship across an age group. Like 8, 9-year-old baseball teams, we're going to get corporate sponsorship so we can buy them all. If that $350 bat significantly makes a difference, then, get corporate sponsorships to be able to do that. If we do need the practice sled for the football team, maybe that's something that is expensive enough that we might want to use corporate sponsorship for that. But that was a big thing. I mean, a really, really big thing that it seemed that at least the parents that were there, they kind of wanted things. But there were, and a suggestion that also came out of this that kind of caught me off guard was the fact that the cheerleader, there were, all three of those cheerleading coaches, or were the coaches and cheerleaders and just a mixture? Can you remember? They were all three cheerleading coaches. Okay, so we had three cheerleading coaches there, and they were suggesting that increasing that cheerleading fee to $120 and buy stuff for the cheerleading squad. And I asked them, I said, what do you mean by stuff? And they were suggesting maybe a bag, socks, pom-poms, the pink socks for the breast cancer awareness, and a uniform could be provided. And I thought that was a little bit kind of unique until I printed the sheet. This is what you have. This is from Carroll County. Carroll County. And Carroll County, the registration fee is across the board for everybody $50. But if you go into cheer, there's an additional $82. This is from Carroll County Recreation. And what they provide is a vest, a skirt, briefs, socks, hair bow, and pom-poms. So that may have been where those cheerleading coaches were getting this from, was from Carroll County. The specific complaints, of course, some of it we're addressing was the poor fencing, and we're working on that now. The need for a paved parking lot, improve the restrooms, which we're also working on that. But the thing that kept coming up over and over again was lack of communication about the programs being offered by the rec department. And I don't know how you communicate. I know some groups use Facebook, some groups use Twitter. You know, it depends on, I guess you just have to have a platform and do it with all of them, I don't know. But the rec department's their greatest complaint, or their greatest problem, is the fact that they need more cooperation with the work detail in getting the grass cut at the rec department. And then I think this one is one that there is a suggestion about this one that's coming up, and that is the relationship with the middle school, the high school, and the rec department. It's still kind of unclear as to whether or not we have a good relationship or a working relationship that we actually want. So I think the major deal here is something that we're going to do next, and that is this is for everybody. Now, we're definitely going to schedule and hold a meeting with the rec committee. Is going to host a meeting with the high school principal, the middle school principal, all head coaches, and get them together so that we can do the same thing, kind of to make sure that it's happening across the board, and that we got to do a cooperation between the two that would make sport improve our varsity sports. So it's not clear, Joe. I think it's kind of not. Joe says that it's there. They're saying it's not. So whatever. So we'll have a meeting and try to deal with that. And I think the one that Terry, you may be able to help out with the last one. I can remember when there was a time when we had a hardship policy or something in place, which it does not exist now. The only thing that exists now is if another parent sees a kid needing cleats, they go and buy them for them. But do you remember how that hardship was set up?
Yes, they had to fill out a form saying it was a hardship, and it went before, I think it was the recreation department, and two people that were on the committee, which could have been city councilman or anybody, and they deciphered if it was hardship enough for them to play free or just get a break in it. And basically what it covered was these grandparents that are having to raise these grandchildren, or it was parents that were already under the poverty level at the school. And a lot, at this point in time, the school counselors are awesome. You could use them to make sure that it's really a true hardship.
So there may be and I think the rec department is trying their best to deal with that. But you might put it, that sounds like a workable plan if you look at that. Anything you want to add, Joe? I hope I didn't put words in your mouth. This is an opportunity, I think it's okay, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make sure that this is when we want input from anybody within our, that's here attending. Is there anything that, we made it clear in the meeting that personnel was a personnel issue, and we were not at liberty to deal with personnel, so, some of them, one of the biggest things is the cheerleading coaches were very excited that they were at Temple. They loved being at Temple. But do any of you have any ideas, suggestions, or thoughts about the rec department that maybe be added to this or maybe be added to this? If not, look over this. If we'll ask everybody on the council to look over this, and we'll have a little more concrete plans as to how to proceed. But I gotta say this again, it's kind of nice when you sit down in a meeting and you have people who really do care about what's going on and giving good suggestions, and they're feeling good about it. That was just really, really, really exciting to be a part of. The parents and people that were there were genuinely caring about it. We do need to have some input about it. I think if we're looking at this cheerleading thing and being fair, you all need to be kind of checking with whomever and talking. $132 to cheer sounds like a lot. But I've had quite a few people who are connected with cheerleading tell me that's just a drop in the bucket. And that it would help tremendously if those items were already there so that they didn't have to go and buy those on top of. See, that $82 we're charging now only covers the cost of the uniform. And then they have to go out and buy these other items. And, you know, just think about that.
Got a question.
Ask it.
All right, Joe, do you have a website where they can post and all the information that you know, like with the flyers and everything, the kids don't take them home? That's very common. I mean, the teacher gives them notes and stuff, you'll never see it when it gets home. But I mean,
they have everything posted on our,
on Facebook,
on our city
All right.
website. The dates for registration is posted on there. Robert, who works at the rec part-time, he posted on Facebook.
yeah, any kind of information that they may need would be on there.
But to add to that, remember the new website that's
Right.
about to come online.
Yeah.
Everything now will be connected to that, including all of the forms that a parent would need. So they wouldn't have to actually have to come to the rec department.
Right.
With it, when the new one comes online, they can do everything online, which should help some of that alleviate some of that problem.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Any other questions?
Just a comment, the next to the last tab in your book, you will find deals with that recreation committee meeting, and I'd suggest you put the additional information from, Representative Bracken, we just put that on top, so it's all in that one tab.
Okay. Yeah, I see where it's coming out. Any other questions, comments? With that, then we go to item number, going up it from my page. Item number 1, which is now item number 3, which is an update. It's a report on the results of the discussion with River Bottom Farm as directed by the City Council concerning construction of the new press box with possible modification and reduction in costs. Mr. Arthur.
If you would just flip back one more tab from the back, and you will see a memo from the proposed new press box. And as the council decided on September 4 that we selected River Bottom Farm to construct the press box, but this action was subject to the outcome of negotiations to seek to reduce the overall cost from the quote of $28,750. So whether we go forward with the project, we still have to decide based on information and what I've given you here. We did have a meeting with the mayor, myself, Mr. Wilson, and Dale Reinhardt. He did get back. I had a meeting with him last Thursday, and of course, we had mentioned several things in our prior discussion by the mayor and council of looking at what we might do to, for example, with the each air conditioning wall unit, which Mr. Reinhardt said would be about $700. We'd also had a conversation with him on whether or not we would change from a concrete pad on the first floor to a gravel floor. While that would be less expensive, there were some liabilities with the gravel floor that you wouldn't have with concrete floor. Bottom line, that when I met with Mr. Reinhardt last Thursday, and I've given you a copy of his written response, he pointed out that he was trying to do a long-lasting press box with a little upkeep, and one of the things that he did point out, and I stay on the second page, that his bid, there will need to be 305 linear feet of underground wiring and conduit that will have to be laid. And that's included as part of his bid. And also with this being 2 stories tall with a roof, he will be having to rent some equipment so that workers can safely be at those elevations. One where you could reduce the price, this would be about $800. Rather than using treated wood, which he's got in his quote, if you wanted just to use white wood, which is, I understand it from his comments, would certainly not have the durability of the treated wood. That he was looking at about $70 a square foot. Bottom line is that I think the mayor and council have to decide if you want to move forward with this bid as originally submitted, reduce it by that $800 on the untreated wood. Of course, you can reject all bids, rebid the project. Keep in mind that his bid was significantly lower than the other 2 bids that we received when we did this. But that's where we are. That's my report to you at this time.
Howard.
A question or comment. The original bid information called for the structure to be 10 by 10, which is 100 square feet times two stories. That's 200 square feet. And here he's got the 2-story press box would be 400 square feet. A cost of basically $70 a square foot. So where's the extra 200 feet coming in?
Joe left.
That would be a 10 by 20 rather than a 10 by 10.
Were we given the wrong dimensions on that? We don't,
No,
he didn't put that in.
He's got, well, his bid is the specs that we put out. You've got a copy of those.
Yeah, what's in there, where are those
Right there.
specs?
10 by 10.
Right there.
Over here?
Yeah. The structure's to be 10 by
10
10.
by 10, yeah.
But when he puts in 400 square feet, it's cutting his price per square foot in half. But originally, it was $140 per square foot. Now, it's saying 70 square feet, but it's still only going to be 200 square feet instead of 400. So I'm confused.
I'll have to get back with him because what I'm giving you is what he gave us.
Yeah.
The only thing I can figure is he mistakenly used the square footage for each side of the building. No, that won't make sense. It would be 10 by 20. But I don't know.
I'll get back in touch. Like I say, this is his response to what you have asked.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we should have a concrete lower floor.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the wiring under
And
there.
treated wood.
And it should have pressure treated wood if it's proposed.
And so if you're going to do that, and you can put a heating and air conditioning unit in for another $700. I mean,
We're back up to the 28%.
if the square footage is right.
That's not right about the square.
I'll talk with him tomorrow on that because
We have the 300 feet of conduit wires. That's pretty pricey too.
Yeah. The
But
electrical.
you would have thought he would have put that in his pricing then. Why tell us after we go back for negotiation? That's not even listed in his pricing.
But if it's only 200 square feet total,
Mm-hmm.
that's $140 a square foot. That sounds high. Yeah, when he's saying, when he's comparing it to homes using $90 per square foot, his is going.
Well, that was our question, if you remember, Howard, to begin with, about that cost. Why was the square footage that cost? So it looks like that's what the question needs to be.
That needs to be very quickly.
All right.
To me,
Well, I think we're gonna send it back to him. We just asked him that he put everything in there, the wiring and everything. Let's get it all in there.
you know, if we have to do 28,750, let's just be sure what we're getting, and how many square feet, exactly what it's costing per square foot.
And the rental of the equipment, he's saying that included the rental of the equipment. It wasn't anywhere in that bid that I saw.
Well, in fairness, he gave us a bid on doing the building, which included all of that, you know. He didn't break it down, and we could see how much each thing was costing. He said, I will build the building, the price, which included this. That may be not what we want, and it may be.
I'm not trying to pick it apart, I just want it to be perfect.
Mr. Quick.
Yeah, but that square footage is a big deal. All right, any other questions? All right. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, we'll go back to originally page 1, Public Works Committee, Mr. Wallace.
Item number 1, staff reports on possible street resurfacing project under the City of Temple's current roadway infrastructure improvement fee program and on the possible addition of other residential subdivisions to the described.
I'm gonna start this and, I asked him to come up with this item because he probably will have some comments. George also, they had worked on this, but bottom line is that as you will remember back, more than 2 years ago, the city council enacted the roadway and infrastructure improvement fee ordinance. Initially, we had Perennial Park, Arbor Landing, and Tiffany Mills. Later, Webster Lake was added. And these, of course, were residential subdivisions that had been started. And then when the recession hit, work stopped. Time went by. They now were beginning to restart construction. But the street that had been put in had really only the binder topping that had been put in, and we knew that there would have to be the additional paving as well as some related infrastructure. And just to remind all of us that when these developments started, each one of them started with a developer, and that developer was responsible for the infrastructure. Those developers basically went belly up, taken over by financial institutions who ended up selling lots, groups of lots to builders. Those builders will tell you, I'm the builder, I'm not the developer. And so, as you know, keep us as a city from being stuck with those costs, you did approve during this roadway and infrastructure improvement fee ordinance back in 2016. And as you remember, we determined what the per vacant lot cost would need to be in terms of the fee to give us sufficient money to be able to pay for what needed to be done, and that did include a 40% add-on to handle related infrastructure costs other than the road itself. You also put a limit of $2,500 per lot on what could be charged with this fee. Bottom line is that there are two things that we want you to take a look at and take action on if you're willing to do so next Monday night. If you haven't looked at it, you can go out Tiffany Mills subdivision on Old Raymond Road. That's a very small subdivision, 20 lots, about half of them have been built. Only street there is Iverson Place, and it's in bad shape. And we feel like, Dwayne and I have looked at this, that we need to go ahead and put, do the final prep and to put the final topping on that. We've got some money that we've collected thus far, and it will, of course, cost more than that. We would need to upfront that money from somewhere in the general fund and repay it as those lots are built. But frankly, the binder topping is just about gone, and you got not only potholes, but you're rattling dirt, and it's obviously it's going to be much more difficult to sell the lots and get things built with the condition it's in. So let's stop on a point, any discussion and comments that Dwayne had on the Tiffany Mills situation.
If you haven't rolled through the Tiffany Mill, if you were to choose 0 to 10, 10 being the worst, I would say it was a 10. So, and also keep in mind when I got these figures about 2 years ago, probably the asphalt charges probably have increased. So maybe that estimate cost will go up just a little bit.
Did you get a cost on this? What's the cost?
Yes, $20,239. That was 2 years ago. I brought the spreadsheet.
Is this a joint effort with,
Oh, okay, that's the only.
is this a joint effort with Carroll County? Or we do this under?
Carroll County will be paid, yes.
How much, 20,000?
It's $20,239. That's the estimate for 2 years ago.
But also the sewer, the sewers are up.
Good now, it's fine, as long as we continue to get the roadway,
Now, any other things with Tiffany Mills? The other is that we do feel like that we've got some other unfinished subdivisions that need to be added. George Scala and Wayne Everhart have been out looking to see on some others, and they have identified 3 residential subdivisions where we have activity getting started, and where we do need, we believe, to initiate the roadway and infrastructure improvement fee. Those are Lakeside, Azalea Hills, and Schoolhouse Trace. We have
Lakeside,
had,
okay, is that in the memo? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Following.
yeah. We've had contact with the builders in these subdivisions and told them that probably this would be coming. If you look on the last page of my memo, Azalea Hills, of course, is located off of Venable Road, have 36 lots yet to be built on. This will be the first one that we've had that we will not be able to collect the full anticipated cost of the infrastructure work because that's a little over $3,000. And of course, our max is $2,500 per lot. That does include the 40% add-on, so it will depend on what kind of cost there would be for the related things other than the street paving. Lakeside subdivision, 51 lots yet to be built on, and Schoolhouse Trace subdivision, 15 lots yet to be built on. And what you will find, we did include another copy of the ordinance itself, so you can just refresh your memory on that. And then we do have what Dwayne mentioned, that he and George did the same thing that he and Ricky Watts had done originally, showing you the cost per lot of that diagram. And then what we do have, the last couple of pages, is just gives you a financial report on what's taking place with those 3 original subdivisions. And I don't think we've had any activity yet on Webster Lake. We need to get that incorporated into your chart. But that's my report. Dwayne and George would be glad to respond to questions and so on.
Go ahead.
Has there been a permit issued on in Lakeside subdivision? Lakeside on Elm Street?
Are you looking at something, I'm not sure without. Mr. Alderman, that's the one you said someone came in and purchased, I think it said about 15 or 20 lots, or 2 to it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the,
Was it Lakeside or was it Azalea Hills? You said something.
we had one of these, keep in mind that your ordinance provides that we can collect this fee, we can collect it one of 2 times. We can collect it basically at the time that you get your building permit. And if we don't get it then, we can collect it at any point up, but you don't get your CO until you pay it. If you remember back when we first started this, we had 3 or 4 houses that had been started before you adopted the ordinance, so we couldn't collect it on those. But since you adopted the ordinance, any of the houses that would be built in the affected subdivisions will pay. So if we've got, say on Lakeside, if there's a new one that is not applicable, since you don't have the thing installed for that one, once we get it installed, then we will be able to do that. Or we would have to just collect that more from the others.
Go ahead. Schoolhouse trace, have we issued a permit there?
That I don't know.
My thoughts are, Azalea Hills, I would go ahead and do, I would go ahead and do that, because you're never going, no matter how long you wait, you're never gonna get more than 2,500 per lot anyway. Lakeside subdivision, you're at 2365, you're never gonna get more than 2,500 with waiting. And that schoolhouse trace, if there's no activity, I wouldn't do that.
Why not?
Dwayne just answered the question, because in 2 years, asphalt has probably went up.
But you could never get more. Would you have to put that
Oh,
in
but you
there?
can get more than the 1306, you can get up to 2,500.
And I can't tell you, I think these, and Dwayne, that George would have to answer the question, because those were the three subdivisions that have been identified as ones we needed to bring before you, because either activity was underway or we felt like it was getting ready to get underway. Now, schoolhouse trace, I deal with Dwayne on that. I do know with Azalea Hills and Lakeside, we've got people coming in here, and they're moving forward with those.
I think you could do those two, and hold off on schoolhouse trace.
Unless we have activity.
Unless, if there's no activity, say impose it.
Do you have any comment on that? I know you had identified schoolhouse traces
Right, because-
as being included.
Right, when we spoke, we said go ahead and just go ahead and do all the subdivisions, so we can go ahead and get a concrete number, and if activity were to pick up, then we would have the number.
So if you just want to do those two and then schoolhouse trace, we can hold off on it until we have specific activity.
Schoolhouse trace, if you do it now, and if in 2 years, there's activity, or 3 years, and asphalt is going up 50%, you lost. Whereas if you wait, you can put it in place and get more.
So no
Okay.
activity at all at Webster?
You've got that one in place already.
Oh, it's Webster, oh, it's, okay, never mind.
We done 4 subdivisions.
Yeah, because that was one of the ones that we had brought in. All right, my bad.
Any other questions? Okay. 2, staff report on the status of Georgia Department of Transportation's 2018 local maintenance improvement grant program in the city of Temple. Dwayne.
Spoke to the county, they have 15 projects before they would get to our LMIG projects. Spoke with running this past week, and we did not give them a definite date, but as always, we always ask, and once they get through with their projects, they'll proceed without.
You said 15?
Question. Number 3, updated staff.
Before you, there's a part 2 to this. In terms of, that's where we are with the current program.
Right.
If you look down at the bottom of the memo, we're looking ahead to 2019. We need you to be identifying what projects you want to recommend that be considered for the 2019 LMIG. And because we've got to get that, we need to actually y'all approve that list not later than your meeting on Monday, November 5. Because we have to get it into
I have to
GDOT.
submit before December 31st.
I got a question about, there's 2 streets that I've noticed where they're just totally gone. One is at the, I don't know that side street right there, it's right in front of the Church of Christ, the side street, coming out of Schoolhouse Trace. There's a section as big as this table that's totally gone.
James Street?
Is it? No, that's not James Street, is it? It's the one that connects, the one that goes between Schoolhouse Praise and the Church of Christ, Temple Church of Christ.
That's Griffin.
Is that Griffin? Yeah, I think it's a Griffin.
Yeah, you guys had Griffin Street done.
Was that was
years
that
ago,
one?
but it's starting to actually out there.
Oh, okay, that one's in this one, okay.
No. You guys did that one about 3 years. It's already been in service, but part of it that was in service is out of there. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Is that a fault? What is the fault of that? Is it,
I mean, whether,
because the exact same thing is happening again in Deer Run. Yeah.
whether, I mean, you're talking about heat, coldness, asphalt
So
expansion.
what is our plan for repairing stuff like that? Do we just have to wait on LMIG, or is there a way, do we have a plan that, like, there's two that, where it's a section about the size of this table? And do we have a plan where we can go in there and put a fix on that, or do we have to wait for LMIG to do it?
LMIG has been the preferred way that the Temple has actually done things now. 2019 budget is coming up. We want to earmark specific money for that, to go ahead and start putting projects like this in place. I think this is an opportunity to do so.
Yeah, that is one.
So right now, we just equipped to do those potholes.
Any other questions? Okay, item number 3, updated staff report concerning activities to inform citizens of the Carroll County referendum to be held on November 6th in order for voters to have information to assist them in considering the proposed T-Splosh program for the local government in this county. Mr. Osborne.
This is not an item asking you to take any action. This is simply reminding you that you've got about 6 weeks to go before the general election, and it includes T-Splosh. We do have information that you had approved that we put out. I did include under this tab the information that the mayor included in his Temple News and Views column. Previously, I had given you information. I did include another copy. I just made reference in here that information that we had gotten from the Carroll County government. But to the extent that any of you want to be talking with voters about T-Splosh, like I say, we've got about 6 more weeks before the actual vote.
Any questions? Item number 4, staff report concerning a possible new roof for the old Public Works building, including the cost estimate, funding options, and a tentative schedule for completion of this work. Mr. Everhart.
We are definitely in a need for a roof on I think that needs to be the water part, the water section of the public works department. It's in terrible condition. I do have a company come out and give me an estimate on it, $9,435. And this is from KRG. They're located right here in the city of Temple. He would not go on the roof because he went on there and stepped on it and it kind of sunk in. So I was able to get some aerial shots of it. See that? And that's probably about 3 weeks without any rain, so water actually sits up there.
That's on the roof? Is that roll roofing, is that what it is? It's not shingles?
It's not shingles. I think it's just a flat roof.
It's roll roof.
Roll roofing.
And it just sits up
So,
there.
so
That's kind of where we store the Christmas decorations. And, we've invested a lot of money in those Christmas decorations, so we need to secure that. Make sure that, they're not damaged in any kind of way.
Absolutely.
What type of roofing repair are we talking about? Is that shingles or more roll roofing?
What type of roof?
This is low.
Oh, it is. It's not putting in.
not gable.
Was there a reason not to do that?
I think he just basically wanted to replace what was there. He was being specific as far as doing anything different.
It's a
can you see the decking from underneath? Is it rotten or bad?
I mean, there's some parts of water actually comes in there.
Okay, so he's gonna plan on replacing decking.
He didn't give me, we just did on the roof itself. Are you
Well,
referring to
that's
the
what I'm
inside?
talking, the wood that it's laying.
That's not really even an accurate estimate there, because that decking is gonna have to be repaired. And would it be cheaper to do, yeah, probably all of it, with that kind of water on there, probably all of it's gonna.
It's something in it, it's just sitting there, and that's what's creating the problem right there.
So you may need to get put a hip roof or some type of gable roof on it. Just get it up. Get a price that way, because that may be as cheap as going in there and replacing all that decking.
If it's got that deck being replaced on that.
He does have the deck, he's got R&R sheathing, it's 1,500 square foot of half inch.
That's still like. How long will that last?
What's the quote?
94, right?
For everything, 9435, 70.
Did we put out RFP on that or?
No, this was just preliminary, we just discussed
Just to
it.
get us an idea of what it would cost.
Basically, the memo that I've given you says 3 questions. Do you want to do anything? Second, do you want to do it now before winter arrives? Or do you want to wait and look at it as part of your capital budget for 2019 and do it in a few months? And if your answer is you want to go ahead now, then are you ready for Ms. Deborah to obtain 3 quotes for you to consider?
I would like to have it both ways. I mean, I don't know how that would.
We can do that.
Just to give us an idea, because it makes sense if you put some kind of gable roof on it. If that's a little more stable. And these flat roofs, they're always causing problems because of water and these things. So my idea is to proceed, it's got to be done. There's a lot of damage. It can cost us a lot more than that if that thing falls in. That's just my
We
idea.
can get a quote, an alternate quote.
That would be nice. Karen, you know, that-
I don't think we need to just put a Band-Aid on it. I think
Right.
we're gonna
Needs to
spend
be
money.
repaired.
Let's fix it. Is there trusses up there, or just like 2x6s, 2x8s?
I think they're trusted.
Just running straight across?
That building is,
I know it's all.
really, that's the reason it may be the easiest thing, just put a gable on and go on.
Any other questions? Okay, item number 5, report from Public Works Director concerning directional signs in the city of Kenton.
Mayor and Council, I've been working with a sign group. As you guys know, as well as I know, there are no directional signs in the temple.
There's not a tab on this, by the way, so
There's no directional signs in the temple. And I think we all agree that there's a need for that. I know a lot of people actually, depend on their phones to actually get them directions, but just having some directional signs will actually help out, as well as the aesthetics of the city, the beautify the city. And I have some pictures here and what I did, I took a picture of the sign out here, as you come from the interstate, our temple sign, and basically told them kind of base it off of that. And, this is what we came up with. So let's take a look at that. So the question would be if you guys like this or you want to come up with a new design, I mean, that's something we can do. I think collectively we could come up with if you like this, or if you want to go with something different or what have you. Part 2, if you do like it, do we want to earmark money for next year's budget, or do we want to go ahead and proceed with getting them out? And the locations that I thought about were here at the sign that we just talked about. Here at James Street in 78, and one on mainly, again, collectively, we come with some more spaces, some more places to actually put them, so.
I mean, yeah, what the cost of these are?
Yes, the cost I gave you for each sign would be $3,450.
3,450.
Per sign. So that's
And this is,
like this or like this? Okay. And you think we need at least 3?
those are locations that I had kind of just visualized myself would be good locations.
3,400 per side.
This includes installation, non-consistent, on-site essentials, install utilities, spinning around the concrete.
What would the actual sign be made out of?
Cedar wood, you look on that.
Talking about now where the writing is.
I think that would be, I think that's better.
That's what-
Probably mine.
Metal.
It's a lot of money, but that sure does take the
It would look good,
thing.
yeah.
It sure does take the thing, and it would make a significant wow factor.
So is your question, do we want to do this now or put it on the 2019? Is that your question?
Do we want to do it was the first one, right?
Right.
Do we want to do it was the first one?
There's
Of
another
course,
place.
we won't do it.
All right. So yes, on the do we want to do it, so the next is coming up
Wait.
in March.
We need to get other quotes on it.
Exactly.
Just one quote. We would need to check with.
I had a hard time.
Really?
That's actually within the.
I was busy
That would
saying.
be the
That's
acceptable
pretty
amount,
basic
right?
though, I mean,
Yep, we did.
Under the procurement, it's 7,500 that mandates the 3. It takes city council approval, anything over 2,400. But that's, that, if in good faith he's out, we can still without getting 3.
We got, let Dwayne and we'll come back to, on, next Monday night with a couple of things. I may have 1 or 2 places, Dwayne, of course, you may tell me when we talk, I've already tried those, and you said no. We can come back to, I guess the question then is, if we find that's, basically we're looking almost a sole source type of thing, do we want to do it now, you want to wait till 2019, and if we want to do it now, then I think that Ms. Bevins and Ms. Guyers got to determine if we got the money to do that.
Money bags.
I'm waiting on the water meter. Sorry. Where are we on the water meters, by the way?
We're still working on it.
Has a bid been put out? Wow. Ooh.
okay, that concludes the Public Works Committee.
Thank you, sir. Next is the Budget and Finance Committee, Chairwoman Karen Bivens.
Okay, so our first item on here is the staff report, subsequent discussion concerning the process of selecting the CPA firm to do the 2018 audit for the city of Temple.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, ma'am. Mr. Osborne, did you want to give Mr. Jones the opportunity to go first?
How long do you think you're gonna be with the other stuff, Cynthia?
It may be 30 minutes.
Do you, Mr. Mayor, if y'all want to amend, we can go to the last item, so we can get Raymond James, make their report.
Is there any objection to
No.
going to item 5?
No.
All right.
Okay. Well, I'm Tom Owens. Let me start with saying thank you for letting me move up to the
The
agenda.
hot seat.
All right. Y'all know Bill Camp, my coworker. I think he's spoken to you before about the issue with the water sewer bonds. Just for sort of a refresher for everybody. You have the Series 2010 bond. It has a payment coming due, sort of what you call a commercial loan, a balloon payment about $4.6 million due January 1st of 2021. So I think that, again, I'm filling in, so y'all feel free to stop me and say, no, you're not right. But the debate and the issue at hand is, how do you address that payment, and when do you go about doing something with it? You know, in our analysis, what we have shown is that there is a prepayment penalty. You pay it before January 1, 2021, but in our estimation, it takes a very little move in interest rates to offset that penalty, meaning that if about 12 to 13, about 1% higher rates, at the time when you take that out, will more than wipe out anything that's been on that penalty. And so our recommendation has been to go forward and to go ahead and refinance that now, get some set fixed rate in place for the remaining life of that loan. There are a few things. We have approached the Carroll County Water Authority. Those bonds are currently issued through that authority. They're secured by an intergovernmental contract. There are some provisions in the existing bond documents that we think you would be better off without. One of those is to issue additional bonds. Your water sewer system has to be making coverage. It has to be producing free cash flow of 1.2 times the annual payment on the bonds. That's for any bond, including a refinance. That's something you don't typically see, but in this case you have that there. So there's some reasons like that we think it makes sense just to take those bonds out entirely. You get to start fresh with a new document. You're going to take most of it out anyway. Penalty for doing so is about $14,000, but it's going to make this a lot easier and let us put a structure in place that I believe is permanent for the remainder of the term of those loans. There are some city funds, what we have looked at, there's some city funds that I would say are, for lack of a better description, sort of earmarked for the purpose of paying water sewer bonds. What we want to do is take a good portion of those and apply as much as we can at this time to pay the balance down, so that what you're issuing is as small a refinance bond as possible. There's no reason at this point to us just to carry that cash to pay it off in the future and pay everybody cost of issuance on the new bond, as well as pay interest on it at this point in time. And our overall goal is to have a new payment structure that is self-sustaining when you're just looking at your water sewer. What we want is that water sewer fund to produce enough free cash flow every year where it's paying the bond and you're not having to contribute anything over there. The two sort of variables there are the interest rate. We're going to do everything we can on the interest rate, and the other thing you adjust is the term. The same way that you have a lower payment on a 30-year bond, a mortgage as opposed to a 15. What we want to do is to run that out long enough where you can very comfortably make that payment. We don't want to go overboard to where you're not paying down enough. It's sort of a balancing act. We think the spot is about 16 years where you would have been able to comfortably make that payment even in what were your leaner years in that water sewer fund. The thing to keep in mind there is that the bonds and the prepayment on these will have to be set between now and when you actually put the new bond in place. We'll have some prepayment options, and so you can always shorten the term. What you can't do is go ask the bondholders, well, we'd rather extend it. It's a lot easier to start longer and make a prepayment and get the thing down shorter than it is to go back and say, well, we're really strapped to making this payment. We're not accumulating any money in our water system for repairs and replacement. Just really puts you behind the 8 ball if you don't get that payment low enough to where you can comfortably make it every year. If you're running that system and it's in working order, that free cash flow is what lets you make regular repairs without having to dip into your general fund. So, that's sort of our advice from a structuring standpoint with what we want to put in place. What you're going to be asked on Monday night is to give us an approval to go make the actual request. What Carroll County Water Authority is, we talked to them and they've essentially said, tell us what it is you're actually asking us to do, and I'll tell you what our suggestion is. Our suggestion is that they serve again as a conduit issuer. That means they are, for lack of a better term, in this instance, a financing vehicle. They technically issue the bonds, but they are they have no payment obligation on them, other than the money you give them, they turn around and pay the bondholders. But you are borrowing with an intergovernmental contract. So intergovernmental, we have to have two governments. Those two governmental bodies, that the one is you, the other is them. That's the same type of arrangement you have now. We think that there is going to be a requirement in some form between you and them that you operate the system with a 1.05 times coverage. So what that means is, for your debt service payment in any given year, they want you to run the system in a way that produces 105% of what you would need to make that payment after you pay your expenses. That's pretty reasonable. That's a good business practice would be to be running your system that way anyway. That's what GFA would require if you were borrowing from the state agency. What we are going to ask of them is that we not have that coverage requirement in the contract with the bondholder. We want that, if they will accept it, we'd like that to be sort of a side agreement between you and the authority. And the reason is, once we make that the term of the bonds themselves, the bond resolution, our agreement with the bondholder, we got to do a lot more description of your water sewer system in the offering document that we put out to those investors. And we're not hiding anything in your water sewer system, but we got to have a full description. We might have to involve engineers to create that documentation. And what we're really relying on, what the bondholder's going to rely on, is the fact that there's a contract between you and the authority. So our business deal, the arrangement you have and the agreement we're going to have in all of our minds, and maybe even in the side agreement with the authority, is what we're requesting, is that we are going to operate the system in a way that produces the right amount of coverage and pays the bond. What we want the formal agreement to be between you, the authority, and the bondholder is just that it's that intergovernmental contract. That lets us limit it to, here's the security, they're going to come up with money from any available source. And then if the authority wants that 105, we're going to ask them to let us do that side agreement, just because it makes life easier. It keeps the prospectus we put together to show the investors becomes a lot easier. The ongoing reporting about your system is a lot easier for the city. So we just want the security that we're showing to be as simple as possible. We've talked to the rating agencies about that. They're very comfortable with that type of strategy. But what we're more or less going to be asking from you Monday night is, if you're comfortable with that, and this may not be what the water authority wants, but that's what we're going to ask of the water authority. Serve as that conduit to help you to issue these bonds to refinance it. And if they will, let us have that agreement set. They may not. They may say, no, we want you to have that with the bondholder as well. We think that's sort of maybe a little bit overkill to have it in both places. It would function the same way. But we do think it makes it a little easier on your offering document. But again, I think the ask Monday night is just going to be for you to tell us that it's okay for us to go and make that request as well. Mr. Osborne, is there anything I left out of that? Anything you want me to discuss?
Wanted you to bring us up to date with where y'all are and
Okay.
with what you are asking the city to do at this time.
Yes, sir. That's it. When we'll make a request to the water authority, and hopefully they'll come back and agree or disagree, and we need to use them regardless. So we're gonna, they've been a good partner to you really for the most part. Y'all had good success working with the water authority. It's a good way for you to be able to access the bond market when you need to. So I know we're all appreciative of them letting us do this. But we're gonna make that request, and they'll come back, and we'll get you sort of a formal timeline of what happens between now and when the refinance.
Could you repeat one thing that you
Yes.
said at the beginning regarding the penalty amount to be offset by 1/8%?
Yes, sir. So the Bank of America holds your current bond. You're a single bond holder. And that works a little differently than if you had a bond out in the public market. When you sell bonds from a single bank like that, they have a lot more control over the documentation, just whatever the two of you agree to. And that document said that you're gonna pay those bonds with that balloon coming due. And if you prepay that balloon, they have what's called make whole requirement. The way that really works is they had their money invested with you, they were making a certain rate. When you prepay them, they've got to be able to go keep making that rate. And if they can't, you gotta make up the difference. And so there's a penalty for paying them off early because they're not earning that same rate they were. Now, that being said, if you wait to issue these bonds and interest rates go up, you pay a higher rate of interest. You know, say we didn't do anything until 2021, you pay a higher rate from 2021 all the way till when we pay these bonds off. And so it's worth it to pay the penalty. And again, interest rates may go the other way, and we could be totally wrong about this. But it is worth it to pay a penalty today. We sort of quantified, well, how much could rates go up before we broke an even? And it's about an eighth of 1% is right about where that number is, where you break even. And so, you know, and again, I'm filling in, but I think the general discussion has been, what's our worst case is the rates get away from us. You know, and this way we've kind of said, well, the worst case is that penalty. And so we're just sort of in the business of limiting the bad side. We could always be wrong, you might do a little bit better, but we've capped our exposure if we go in and fix the problem today, the way we're looking. We would just hate for you to wait 2 years and interest rates would be materially higher. It would end up costing you money in that scenario, even though you saved the prepayment. Yes, sir.
You had mentioned the penalty would be about $14,000.
That's the additional for paying off the entire bond and getting out of it completely instead of just a majority of it. It changes every day. It's actually come down a little bit since we first started talking about this, and because short-term interest rates have gone up. And so as those go up, it's easier for the bank to re-earn what they're exactly what
It
they're
was considerably higher. when this-
Oh, yes, now the entire penalty is much, it is, you know, it's 100,000
Well,
ballpark.
near 100. Okay,
Yes.
okay. So he was talking about 70,000. Okay, and then
Yeah,
40.
well, and that's, you know, again, I'm saying that off the top of my head, that it'll reprice every day, but the additional, for us to take everything out and be done with it entirely is about.
Still, you can wipe that out with the same.
Yes, and it's the same type of math, you know, we were trying to do as little of that as possible. And where we got into, when you look at the old bond document, was we have to have a 1.2 times coverage to issue new bonds. And so it handcuffs us a little bit in what kind of structure you end up with on the new deal. And to us, the most important thing is to have a self-sustaining structure going forward where your payment is something that you're making from the water sewer system and doing that, you know, like clockwork each and every year.
Our current bond is amortized through 2028.
Yes, sir, that's
I
correct.
wouldn't want to go too far beyond that. You mentioned 15 years. That would put us into like 2032 or
That's right.
2034.
And what I would tell you about that, and this is what we tell folks, water authorities and folks from the water sewer systems all the time. We can always make, and again, you'll have some penalty where you can't, I mean, some period where you can't make prepayment. You know, it's just the bond market. They don't want you to borrow money and pay it back the next day. But when we get through that period, which will be before 2028, the outside of it be 2028, we can always pay down that bond. We can always shorten it. What we can't do is when a payment, if we put it all in here and we're having trouble making that payment, we can't, without doing another bond, take some of that off and put it on the back end. The other thing is, when you're running a water sewer system, the money that doesn't go to pay down that bond accumulates. And the only thing you're gonna know here for certain is the interest rate on these new fixed rate bonds. But what you get when you've got a system and it's accumulating free cash flow every year, you got cash, and next time you have something expensive that needs to happen in that system, you can either potentially do it without borrowing or borrowing less. You might look out there at that 2028, and our plan today was to prepay these bonds. Interest rates may be higher. There was a time, and again, people laugh at me when I say this, but in 2007, we were earning 5% of Georgia funds. If we got to that environment, you earning 5% and this bond was costing you 3%, we wouldn't pay it off. All right, so I mean, what I'm saying is, when we have a payment that we can make easy, and we're accumulating a bit of money there, it gives us the ability to put it in the ground without borrow if we want to, prepay it, or leave it invested. And it really gives you a lot of flexibility to make the best financial decision at that time, and let's not guess today what's going to be the best financial decision. Does that make sense? I mean, we always want to get out of debt where we can. And that very well may be the thing to do. But what we wouldn't do is need a big improvement to the system, pay this debt off and reborrow it, potentially at higher rates. You're right. We think about it before we got rid of all our cash and then had to reborrow. And we wouldn't want to pay off the debt to go get a little more expensive. That makes sense. But you're right. I mean, the instinct to get out of debt as quickly as you can is absolutely right. I mean, that's what we want to do.
Well, if we went 15 years, it should roll the payment by 100,000
Yes,
a year.
that's exactly right.
125,000.
That's exactly right. I mean,
We've got capital improvements coming up for water and sewer, where we're
Right.
going to need a whole bunch of money.
that's right. And if you think about it, we don't care. I mean, you're really indifferent if you borrowed the dollar for this or if you borrowed the dollar for that. It's a borrowed dollar either way. What we know is our interest rate today, and it's pretty low. And so if we have to borrow that dollar 5 years from now, we have no idea what our cost of borrowing is going to be. And so that's what, again, you don't want too much cash. It's all a balancing act, but it makes sense to run it comfortably and with some free cash flow so that you can make the best decision as you're getting those dollars. And it may very well be to pay off the debt. And that may be right.
When you put documentation together, you're going to need our 2017 audit completed and approved, probably.
Yes, that's right.
That's going
right.
to be probably November.
That's right. That's right. That's what we've sort of been targeting, is to have that ready to go. And we talked Friday afternoon. We were looking at those numbers, sizing up where we think they're.
Timeframe is okay. If
Yes,
we-
that's going to be
If we were to give a go ahead
Yes.
on Monday.
It's going to be about perfect, really, to hit right where you need it, I think.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other? Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I hope that was. Thank you. Hope y'all have a super fun.
Alright, so we go back up to number 1. Mr. Osborne, staff report subsequent discussion on the process of selecting our CPA firm for 2018 audit and the completion of our 2017 audit. Y'all want to take a 5-minute break?
Yes. Let's take 5.
Sounds good to see.
Sad old age, Richard.
Richard can't hold his water.
Next, come on tonight.
Go ahead and get Richard to get a catheter for the meetings. That makes some weird stuff right there. That's expensive for just 5 minutes, isn't it?
1 minute.
Well, I guess there's a line.
But I ate 2 chocolate chip cookies. The whole meal over till Birmingham. I had to go drive up there about 12:30. Go to Birmingham. Come back. I got back about 4:30.
And Birmingham.
I try to stay away from anything that's got over 100 people.
They have to like, a lot of work. And, both Baptist Medical Center in Birmingham, at that time, we had 2 campuses. Claire and Princeton. But they had built into it they basically was just talking like a repair.
Yeah.
That's when, like I said, if you have a family member who major surgery coming up, or you're out of town, they get you.
They were out of It's a big style of last October. And her sister just returned to Tennessee. And he was helping the lady out of the boat dock about a couple of weeks ago. And he fell off the boat dock and had a traumatic brain injury. He died last week. They were ready to all yeah.
Younger brother, and he was probably.
Wait till the state makes it all. They once you everybody's screwing around.
He had never came back. Whatever.
Right now, you can't be.
Thirty minutes. 30 minutes.
Okay, we have to try, we have to get through these, I really.
One thing about the schedule, you just tell us quickly if anything. The only thing people can do is, well, let's move this date to that date.
I know. I've highlighted the ones that I'm gonna mention real quick. Just so that we can.
You got the Carol.
Right. At a different location.
But the thing about it is, that's the whole thing about it. That's what makes your city pop.
You know, the
Well, he was figuring out where to go.
I'm talking about design.
Well, look, let me tell you, I remember when we did that industrial park sign down there, and it was $6,000.
You said that too.
Thank you, business sitting there to run. Well, these through.
But if you see, if you're taking all the way through it. Well, it doesn't matter. He's not asking us to go to this company. He's asking if we're interested in doing it. No. I know. Good. Yeah, this was, he's been working on this. Yes. I got the picture, that piece of the wood that I had the picture.
Yeah, I think so. I like that design.
Those are big kids. But you have to put the sign that says. I know.
All right, Ms. Davis, you may resume, please.
We go back to order, please. All right, Mr. Osborne, back to the staff report of the Selectmen CPA firm.
Basically, it's that time of year to decide if we are going to contract with our current CBA firm to do the next year's audit, or to solicit proposals from other audit firms. We had a conversation, as you remember, about a year ago. I did find, as I went back, discussions of the past council looking at maybe 5 years would be the maximum. And if you keep Warren Everett for another year, that would be their 5th year. Frankly, I don't want to get in a situation where we have a new CPA firm and maybe a new finance director, since we're not sure what those situations may be. You don't have to make a decision right now, but if you're ready to make a decision, Monday night will be fine, and if not, we do need to get that decision made by the middle of October.
I just think that would be a smart smart decision to do now, because as they finish up 2017, we're gonna be at the end of 2018, they could just keep rolling, and we wouldn't have to start all over. Now, to get one for 2019, that's up for discussion, but I just think it would be smarter as of right now, if we're satisfied, and I've not been here, so this is y'all, we're satisfied with what they've done, if we just keep them and let them keep rolling and get started on our 2018 when they can, so when they finish up our 2017. But that's just my suggestion. I think.
So we'll come back in Monday night and have on the agenda to contract with Warren Everett to do 2018 audit.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so the next one is the staff report on the calendar for the 2019 fiscal year budget presentations. The city council work sessions, hearings, consideration of proposed budgets, and adoption of the city of Temple budgets for the 2019 fiscal year. Ms. Cynthia.
In your workbooks is the budget calendar, so if you'll look at that with me. What we're looking at is through, in fact, even this evening, we're going to go ahead and start with looking at draft budgets, specifically the one for the fiscal year 2019 capital budget. And we're able to do that because consistently we've maintained a working document of capital budget projects as we've gone through fiscal year 2018. Next week, the department heads will get their draft FY19 general fund and water fund budgets, and we'll begin working on those. We were looking at, if you'll look down to the first pink area, Tuesday, October 23rd to October 25th is what we were projecting as a time frame for scheduling the fiscal year 2019 budget work session. That would be the first time that we would be together, actually just working on the budget. This would not be during a committee meeting. Monday, October 29th, your charter requires a 60-day prior to the first of the fiscal year for your capital budget. So the first public hearing would be held prior to the committee meetings on October 29th. Second public hearing on the fiscal year 2019 capital budget prior to your November 5th regular session, and then adoption of the fiscal year 2019 capital budget at that regular meeting. And then we'll continue through November, finishing up the fiscal year 2019 general and water fund budgets with a schedule for the public hearing to be determined, the first one, and then the second public hearing prior to the December 3rd regular council meeting. So that's what we're looking at for our budget schedule.
Any questions, thoughts?
I like having this calendar, I like the way it's laid out.
Okay, so the next one will be our updated staff report on the City of Temple Bank and investment accounts, including the discussion of the investment of the certificate of deposit that matures on 11/17. Okay. Oh, that's true, I just skipped item 3.
Okay.
I'm trying to get on through this thing, excuse me.
You ready to go home, Marty?
I guess I got
worksheets. Our existing fiscal year 2018, I should have colored them different, but fiscal year 2018 capital budget worksheet. And then the next worksheet is actually titled fiscal year 2019 capital budget worksheet. So let's review real quick the 18 to bring us up to date. And as you can see in the notes section, each of the projects that have been approved. So for Senior Center, their projects have been approved and are in process. For the Recreation Department, the playgrounds were approved in June 2018, are in progress. Press box, y'all are currently working on that, but it can be funded with county SPLOST was something that was mentioned for funding that project. Ball field fencing replacement, that was approved to get 3 quotes, so that's proceeding now. In Public Works, as you can see, the projects that have been approved with the pumps, and you have your street projects with the LMIC match, the water meter equipment, and of course, you do have an approval for a water meter replacement project up to $400,000. The only thing in Public Works that was moved to FY19 is the truck, the request for the Public Works truck. The Police Department, all of his public work, the 3 vehicles have been, or excuse me, 2 vehicles have been purchased, are in the process of being purchased. Administration has a request for a code enforcement vehicle that has been moved to next year. City Hall renovation, council meeting, record storage room, that has been moved to fiscal year 2019. Sewer treatment plant, the addition of an additional sludge pump and the relocation of the existing sludge pump. So there will be 2 total. That project has been moved to fiscal year 2019 also, which, as you can see, the portable diesel pump, that has been completed. Are there any questions on our FY18 capital budget? And moving on to fiscal year 2019, this is a draft projection of projects that we've moved from FY18, but also input from the department heads on projects and purchases that they're looking, planning for in fiscal year 2019. For the Senior Center, Sandra prioritized, these are in priority order from the department heads. A furnace replacement, there's been several repair jobs on the furnace. Both of the bathrooms to be renovated, both men's and women's. And then a total complete table and chair replacement purchase. And that's something, again, with each of these, we can talk with the department heads and they'll present their projects. In the recreation department, and I should have put totals there for you. Obviously, that's $90,000 right now for the Senior Center. Recreation, the infield groomer, these are in priority order from Joe. The walking trail retention area upgrade, he is requesting, I don't know if this is a replacement or an installation of air conditioning in the gymnasium. New. Parking lot upgrade, the concession building and bathrooms renovated in all 3 buildings, and then the converting of 2 of the 4 tennis courts outside the rec center into outside basketball courts.
Can I ask a question on this? The bathroom renovation and repair, that's being done now because those were burst apart.
And maybe taking it a step further, upgrading, installing the fixtures. This is what he brought to me. I don't
No,
know
at the rec department. Yeah, we were out there, this construction was already taking place on that.
We'll
Maybe there's-
report back to you on that as to
Okay.
whether there's anything more than.
Okay.
Okay. The Public Works Water Department, the LMIC match will again be there for fiscal year 19. The Water Department truck is a request roof replacement on the Public Works building, and of course y'all discussed that tonight and whether it would take place this year. And then again, a next phase or a follow-up phase to the water meter replacement project. Police Department, Chief Lee is requesting 3 new vehicles in fiscal year 19. Administration will, our request for a code enforcement vehicle, code enforcement of fats, oil, and grease, Inford, Cal, analyzer, and field sample kit, City Hall renovation, as well as City Hall administration for a complete computer and peripheral equipment upgrade. And then the sewer treatment plant, the purchase of and relocation of the sludge pumps for the sewer treatment plant. And those are the projects we'll be looking at for fiscal year 2019. No, sir. I do have it on each department. So 90,000, 289,000 for recreation. 451,000 for public works. That's including another 400,000 for meter replacement. 127,500 for the police department. 322,000 for administration. And 30,000 for the sewer treatment plant. What was your total?
1,309,500. Do we have any?
Much more than we collected in costs. Yeah. So that is our first look at a possible capital budget for fiscal year 2019. And of course, selection of the items set in the budget based on our SPOS revenue coming in fiscal year 19, what fund balance we have coming over, as well as what we're able to complete this year in fiscal year 2018 capital projects will all be part of the discussion.
Yes, sir.
Cynthia,
Yes, sir.
in terms of current budget that you reported on, there's no action that we need to take on anything current year on Monday night, right?
No, because the only 2 items on the current that have yet to be approved completely is the press box and the ball field fencing replacement, but I don't think Joe reported.
We didn't.
We'll have that,
Bids.
yeah, we'll have information on both of those Monday night.
Okay.
But,
Those would be the only 2 action items that are still left in the budget.
Any more questions? Comment? Now it's 30
All right. I wanted to give you an update on your account balances, since we did move money around this past month. The first page, you'll see all of your operating accounts.
Keep going.
All right.
I found it.
And you'll just see, I've broken it up, and you can see the totals. The general operating fund, and these are balances as of last Friday, 9/18. Your debt service reserve fund, we broke that out. What is in the debt service reserve fund is the monthly payments that we transfer from the water fund in preparation for making the principal and interest payment at the end of this year. The debt savings money market account is the new one that we just opened on 9/6. Your special purpose funds and their totals, the SPOS accounts and what balances they have. The water department, this has your operating fund as well as the money market that we transferred to Synovus and opened on 9/12. We go to the next page, this will be an update on your investment funds. These are the CDs that you hold in the general fund and in water fund. The highlighted green is the CD that I'd like to discuss with you this evening. and that is a $77,564.51 CD that is maturing at United Community Bank. And if you'll turn to the next page, these are the current rates as of today being offered to us by our local banks. And Synovus did come back with a very good offer for 12 months, 13 months, 18 months, and 21 months. You see, and it ranges from 2.35 to 2.65. So if you'll flip back to your investment page, I also am speaking with Ms. Bibbins. We have 2 more CDs that will mature before the end of this fiscal year, and that's coming up in December. So we'll be looking at those 2 CDs, a fairly large, $250,000 in the general fund, $250,000 in the water fund, and they both are located at Bank of North Georgia or Synovus Bank, basically.
And so we would like to propose that we move that $77,000 from United Community Bank over to Synovus Bank. Discussion being for how many months, 12 to 21, as you can see the rates there. But also, because the other 2 bonds are only at drawing 0.10%, let's go ahead and move those also while we have these rates. Like, let's put the 77,000 with the 251,000. And then we have to do the second one, has to be totally different because it's a water. But go ahead and get them all done for the year now while we've got these rates. Any suggestions? Go ahead.
It's too early to do the ones for 2019, isn't it?
We're not gonna lose anything, we're only getting 0.10.
Yeah, if there's a
What are we
penalty at
gonna
all,
lose?
it's gonna be more than double.
See what I'm saying? That's what I was asking Steve, with it being 0.10, I mean, how much of a penalty could we lose doing it a month early? And especially since Synovus is obviously, coming back after our business.
Okay, you said you still need to do all 3 of them at one time. like
Yes, sir.
on Monday.
But the discussion needs to be how long we all want to do them for. I mean, we went from 0.10, we're down to 2.65 rate at this moment. I mean, that's over 200%.
That's been my argument all the time.
Monday.
We should be getting paid for money, not paying somebody.
Right. So any suggestions on the table to the length of time y'all want to do those, or you want to think about it when we vote on Monday night, vote on Monday?
That looks like much, but it's not much from one to the other.
Mhm.
12 months, huh?
Yeah, because it's just 30, it's not even a 0.5%, it's a third of a percent difference. So it won't make that much difference whether it's 12 or 21. Looks like that's the money now, right?
That's
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
And I will also give Mr. Ray a call at Synovus and lay all this out, our proposal to him, and make sure I have that information for you next Monday night too.
You were proposing doing 2 CDs, you said put the 77,000 with.
With the top one,
Okay, the top.
yes, the 251, and then we have to use that on the second anyway, yes.
No response from number 4.
All right, that concludes budget finance.
Thank you. Next up, Public Safety Committee Chair, Mr. Howard Walden.
Yes, sir. We will have this chief everything. Report from the City of Central Police Department. It's all in there. Chief, he has already handled everybody.
You might have any questions about that. Stats, we had a few highlights that we didn't get a chance to put on, but we do have them, we're gonna have them in with the stats investigation department, which we'll give out probably in the next meeting that we have. We'll have some good comments on some things. I guess you all got a letter from Sandy Shackelford. So I didn't want to pass out the copy, but along with some other compliments that we got, and that's something we have to really give the guys to boost the morale up in the department versus hearing something negative all the time. That was really good to hear. It made everybody feel like they really done a good job and want to go further and continue on the route. Everything is going pretty good in the police department so far. We still going to be doing a lot of training. We're just having problems now with the vehicles. Keep in mind, I did request 3 vehicles. I hope the guys y'all give them to us because right now we got every officer, the last 3 officers that we have on the force is driving vehicles that's gotten over 125,000 miles. And now we spending so much doing maintenance. It's like when we get one fixed, it tears up, here comes another one, then it tears up, and we get that one back, and we don't have any. The spares is always gone. And the number one thing is it's a big liability for the city, for the department to have officers patrolling. It's all right to have a car you use it for codes or something else that you don't have to go and render aid in emergency because of officers doing an emergency to render aid and an axle break loose on a 10-year-old car. It ain't good. So if you get 100,000 miles on a 5-year car, or 4-year-old car, that ain't as bad. When a car gets 10 years old, you got transmission can fall out, the axle can break, tire rod, anything can happen to it. They're over 10 years, 9, 10 years old with over 100,000 miles on it.
How close are you to getting the 2 new ones?
They sent me a letter from Ford saying that they should be ready by October the 21st. And he shipped them right to me. And once we get them, we send them straight to Metropolitan. That's to have all the equipment installed on them, so that might take a couple of weeks. So we still should have them out on the road, hopefully by December. That's why I was trying to get this thing when we doing vehicles, get them the quicker the better, because it's a long process. Once you get one, you gotta wait for Carrollton, Coweta County, all these other agencies got their cars sitting there waiting to be decaled and fixed up, versus us sending 2 cars down there and they got a fleet 15.
Maybe 19 we can get some a little earlier.
Yes, sir. As soon as I'm gonna put, that's the first thing I put in on when we do budgeting, January, December, whatever, the last of November, something like that. I put in for, we got to have the vehicles more than anything, because now our maintenance is really rising. And it's like we get cars tearing up, and everything is replacing them. The whole car really, until we get down to the engines.
Once you get your 2 new ones on the road, it's not that long.
When I get the 2 on the road, I'm still gonna be short 3. The 2 right now, I got 2 officers gonna be placed in those, which is gonna be Cox and what is it? I think it's Cox and I wanna say Thorn. No, Latanzio and Cox. And then the next one is gonna be Thorn. Hopefully we get 3, Thorn, Charles, and Justin. Those 3 is still driving. Some got almost 200,000 miles on them. I'm just saying the minimum is 125. Some is more than that. We got some resting at 200. So that we bought back in 2007, 2008. It's really a must that we have to, I'm willing to put anything to the side to get these vehicles, because we can still mingle and get things that within the department that we need or whatever, but these vehicles we just got to have. And I don't want to keep these officers at jeopardy driving these vehicles.
How long, when we made the approval for these last 2, did it take? I mean, you remember the day we approved those? I mean, I'm trying to think of the amount of time
Well,
span.
not August, was it? approved.
No, it was, I think it was
We're
late spring, but then
Yeah, it was
they were,
around the 1st of July, I think we got them approved in July.
So
It took about 6 months.
we need to jump on it quicker.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, just quicker because.
6 month span there.
Yeah,
That's-
he gotta put them online, they gotta be shipped to
Yeah.
us, and they working on them right now. But like I said, you got these other bigger agencies, when they order these cars, and when they add anything different on it, they gonna put us on the back burner. But we in there because we ordered them, but you gotta look at how many cars Atlanta and Gwinnett, Clayton order, and they trying to ship them out. Sometimes that back order can end up, we get them next year.
Right.
So that's why I said we gonna order, get them, at least I'd rather sit on the car, having it here, and worry about getting equipment hooked up later, as long as we got the car. Because that's the problem, getting equipment hooked up. We can take it here, go to Cobb County, where we need to go, and we need just in the time matter to get them on the road. So we just need to get them here and get them running, because these cars keep breaking down, and then what we're gonna do, we're taking a lifespan out the new cars, because if you run a car 24 hours, you talking, usually you get 4 or 5 good years out of it. You ain't gonna get but 1 or 2, because you're talking the officer running these cars for 12-hour shifts. And when he's done, another officer come to his house to pick it up or whatever to drive it again, because we don't have any other cars.
Most of them got their own car.
Everybody has their own car, but what's happening now, the last 4 or 5 officer cars keep breaking down and keep using the spares. And then now the spares, they break down, and by the time they get their car back, then we got to sit the spare in there, because you got 2 or 3 officers driving a spare. So the whole thing is, when you're running a car 24 hours, 20 hours a day, that's a lot of strain on the car. Patrolling period is a lot of strain, because the average officer is putting 200-300 miles a day on a car just patrolling around the city. So if you're doing that, and then he goes and somebody else borrowed that car, that's getting 200 or 300. And everybody's different on the brakes, on the gas, the different incidents where you got to gas it up, turn around, catch somebody, speed to a call. It's just wear and tear on the car. Versus we on our own car, we just go into where we want, cruise, park it, leave it, don't have to drive it for a couple of weeks or whatever, but it's just constant. And these cars, they're just too old. Usually after about 6 years, it's time should be a rotation around 5 years, really 5 years, a rotation around for another car. But we got cars, like I say, since 2008.
That's the main thing you need. Anything else?
Other than still waiting on a grant. I was waiting on a grant for the vest we put that grant in, I think in July, June, and they keep telling us that we gotta wait till something till September before they let us know. September 23rd, they said, but we hadn't heard anything. And then I got this church group working, talking about working on get some fundraisers and stuff for us to help with these vests. Other than that, I still got that same money aside that I got approved in on the budget to buy. I'm just trying to wait and hold out before I spend that, and then everybody comes with grants and everything. So we at that stage right now. We did have that problem, y'all know, with the air conditioning and everything. We got it straightened out, but we have to be real careful, like you said, with some vendors gouging off of us, just signing a bill because somebody tell you how much something costs, just don't get it. And I tell you, since I've been department head there, I probably tell them how much save the city by catching these vendors doing this. I'm talking thousands. Like somebody just think you're gonna write a bill because you got city and taxpayers' money, then I always scan my bills. I scan everything. I want everything detailed so I know what we're paying, what we get, and then finding out that we're paying a lot more than what we should be paying for a lot of things. So.
We appreciate you watching over there.
Any other questions?
Any questions? Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate the job y'all did for the festival and the parade.
I'll pass it on.
Still trying to figure out how that police officer won that TV, but just saying.
That's why we do it that way. Have a child randomly come in, shake them up in front of everybody.
Next year, the same TV.
been looking at
All right, number 2, we have a report from the city's code enforcement officer, Mr. Scala. And that's all I've got on the agenda was, so I'm hoping you got a report, because it doesn't specify anything.
He's got stuff, he's passing that paper, he's not typing it under.
One more.
You go, Richard.
Somebody must have 2, did you get 2?
2 pages,
Okay, you got it.
Well, summer's almost over and I'm done and dealing with yards. So unless I get a specific complaint, we're not gonna really start patrolling the yards. We're gonna go back to looking at the buildings, accumulation and, fog again. It's been about 4 to 5 months since we, had a checkup on the tanks and everything, so that's coming around again. We've had 4 response already, and we're looking about another 20, we're waiting for about 20 right now. Let's see. We had some good success with our first 3 citations that we wrote. 2 of them go to court on this Friday. One of them is Venable Road, and the other one is the burnout house at 340 Miller Rosa Place. The other one was an occupational license. He's been dodging us for the last 2 years. I served him his summons. He came up here today, he paid his penalty and got all caught up. So that one's off our records too. That was L&L fencing. L&L fencing, right down there to Ringers Crossroads, right there in that little triangle building.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Said good.
That got corrected real fast.
Okay, yeah, citation, good, good.
Yeah, sure. Have them go to court, has a tendency to fix people.
That's amazing.
We also fixed a wastewater discharge on the property. It was somebody living in an RV, running a white pipe out straight into the yard. So we did the same thing with them, and they fixed it and put a permanent block on the outlet. So
Are they running solids out, or just
they were running
running water?
everything. So, and I guess for the rest of the month, I got training going the rest of this week. I go down to Pine Mountain for code enforcement training. We have Dustin, he's going to soil and erosion training to assist when we start all this construction. We can really keep a tight lid on that kind of training, also succession planning. Working with Cynthia on the Cassell implementation, and we'll also work on the capital budget to get that fog testing. It's an accurate way of testing. Instead of sticking a big tube down in a big old tank, you take a sample and it can tell you exactly how many milligrams per liter of fat they're putting out, and 100 milligrams is our limit for our town. If it exceeds that, then they start hitting with the fines and penalty phases. I got David and Clint scheduled to go to erosion and control later on this year before the Christmas time. So that way we have a lot of backup, because that's a EPA thing. If we get caught with the EPA, we get fined. Also working on a nuisance code. I'm looking at the city of Cedar Bluffs code. I discussed this with Mr. Osborne, and it's something we can look out to next year. It's not on a priority. Along with that, the builder's code, and that gives us a little bit more say in town. Let's see. Okay, and we put in for a new vehicle on the budget. The vehicle I'm driving right now, it's got a funny story about this. It's 2002 pound big Chief baby. So it's 16 years old. And while I was jumping somebody off in town yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I jumped him off, got him started, shot him down the road, closed my trunk, closed my hood, tried to start the car and it wouldn't start. So
got the last bit.
Anyway, I had a vice grip, and I was able to rig it to get myself on. And I went to AutoZone and bought me a new battery plant. So,
I gave him the best car too.
yeah, it is. 2002 with 160,000 miles on it. So. But when we start doing this testing and everything, the reason we really want a truck is so we're dealing with the wastewater and stuff like that. You don't have to put it in the trunk or the back seat of your vehicle. You got a bed to put it in. Other than that, we've got 120 cases we've worked so far this year, and we've closed about 90 of them.
That is good.
Do I have any questions?
I got a couple of them. Don't you need to be in court on the 28th?
Yes, I'm getting done with my class at 12, and I'm zooming up here to be at court at 1:30.
Okay, so they won't call it till the afternoon? They won't-
Right, right. I talked with Tina over there, and they got me on the docket for 1:30.
And your witnesses are lined up?
Yep, yes, I got them lined up as well.
On this training for Clint and David, is that like a one-day thing?
Yes, it's a one-day thing, it happens in Marietta.
So they both that same day?
Well, I got spaced out, because, you know, Dwayne needs them, both of them really just been on the same day is not feasible.
That's my concern. I guess that's all I got. Anybody got questions for?
I do. Can I ask a question? Helping Lazarus, are y'all doing anything with that? Because it is nasty.
Well, specifically, it would be more helpful if you could be specific. I know they got a night guard living there part-time, and that's what I get, you know, I go up there and I check with them. It's one guy, he's living there, and according to the ordinance, zoning ordinances, they can have a night guard because there's own CG. So there's own CG, so they're doing good. As far as, they get a lot of stuff in and out of there, so it looks pretty bad all the time, but they're running it through as fast as one man can humanly do it. 'Cause he's the only one that works up there as
Well,
well.
I've been by there a couple times within the last couple weeks, and there is a ton of cars there at night. So I was thinking there was more than just one person there at night. And
Well, without
is it
getting a
livable?
warrant, which I can't do, I can't go in and look in the door, you know, they can
Yeah.
just say, no, you can't come in, and I have no
Yeah.
other way of doing that. But I noticed during the day, there's about 3, 4, 5 cars up there, and most of them don't work. So I go there, you know, because they're in various stages of getting fixed. So the brother that's up there tells me that Nathan's living there, and, you know, until I can actually get eyeballs on myself,
Okay.
then,
I just wonder, it looks like it's growing. It's mess.
well, they are getting a lot more stuff, and he said they got a tractor trailer full of stuff in about 2 weeks ago, and they're still trying to sort through all of it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm up there about every 2 weeks or so, so I'm watching it.
Okay.
Which property are we talking about?
Helping Lazarus,
Okay.
it's up there on 78.
Yeah.
I got you.
Any questions from the council? Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right, that concludes the
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Community Development Committee, Mr. Tom Wallace.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda, announce that during the 6:30 PM Monday, October 1st, City Council regular monthly meeting, a public hearing will be held on a request by Trademark Quality Homes, Inc. for approval of the relocation of the property line between two active undeveloped lots in the Lakeshore Residential Subdivision on property that is zoned DCD, and announced that following the public hearing on October 1st, a decision on the request will be considered by the City Council.
Just an announcement, so.
Okay. Number 2, announce that during the Monday, October 1st, City Council regular monthly meeting, a presentation will be made by the Carroll County School Superintendent Scott Cowell.
Make y'all aware that it's coming up.
Number 3, staff report concerning the work by the City of Temple and the other local governments in Carroll County in reviewing the current service delivery strategy program and concerning possible changes in the long-range program. Mr. Osborne.
Got you a memo on this, because that work basically has been completed. And so we are looking for each of the governments to be signing the intergovernmental agreement the 1st of October. It will be on your agenda for the October 1st meeting. I had given you a copy of this back about 3 weeks ago to see if any of you had any questions. I did not hear anything from any of you, so I assume you were okay with the information. There was very little change that was made from what had been, and I had reported to you before on that. One is that we did add soccer, so we'll be receiving some funds from the county on the recreation for soccer that had not been included before. What I have done is I've included a copy of the intergovernmental agreement, as well as the main thing is the service delivery strategy itself. It's about 16, 17 pages, and it does set forth with how the county government and the municipal governments will be responsible for what services, and that we'll be looking at over the next decade. So you may want to keep this document. I gave it to you so that you would have it for reference for the future. If there's any questions tonight, I'd be glad to try to respond.
No questions? And item number 4, consider adoption on October 1st of the service delivery strategy intergovernmental agreement applicable to the Carroll County government and the other local governments which are wholly or partially located in Carroll County, including the city of Temple.
So that will be an action item for you next Monday night.
Number 5, brief status report on the city of Temple's current updating on its comprehensive plan, with the draft version of the plan now being reviewed by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. Mr. Franklin.
Let's just know that it's Three Rivers, right? With the changes that we may be included in there. Okay, that's it. That's brief enough.
And just, again, keep this document because don't expect it to change. The state may tinker with it a little bit, but this would be what's approved. And once we get everything approved, we'll be ready to start with a number of work program. We've got a number of things, 2018 and 2019 we'll begin to look at.
Okay, number 6, report on the city of Temple's 2018 Founders Day, Saturday, September 22nd. Ms. Evans.
Okay, so Founders Day took place this past Saturday. I think almost everyone in the room was present, and I think we could all agree that it was a great success. The community really came together to make it very successful. I believe we had over 50 vendors. I don't know the exact total count. The parade was, I'm told, the biggest and best parade we've ever had, and it was quite big and fabulous. So we appreciate everyone that participated in the parade and all the vendors. As y'all know, we also had a 5K, a pancake breakfast, a street dance, so there was a lot going on throughout the day. All of this couldn't have been possible without our special events committee that was organized by Mayor Johnson this year, which I think was a wonderful idea because everyone really came together and it just helped to have the teamwork going on and a lot of people assisting us. So I think that was awesome. And we have a lot of our members of the special events committee here. Ms. Frankie Blackstock, she was our chairman, or chairwoman, I should say. And Miss Sandy Shackelford also assisted us. She was in charge of publicity and many other things. I couldn't even name everything she did. She did so much. And Miss Patsy Allgood was in charge of all the vendors. So I really appreciate, all of us really appreciate y'all's help so much. And
If you don't mind, so
yes,
Yes, I think our original goal was to get 40 vendors, and we ended up with about 66. 60, excuse me. Right. 60. We had some that just showed up, and we let them.
Well, on that subject, let me say this. I think we can summarize Saturday that Temple showed up and Temple showed out.
Yes.
And especially those singers dancing on the streets Saturday night.
And as far as the financial part of it, I don't have the exact numbers yet because as of this morning, we are actually still taking in some vendor money, t-shirt money, and some other things, and we also have some invoices that we're still working on getting paid. So I don't have the final numbers as far as our budget, but I do know about a week and a half ago when I got the printout from Cynthia, we had taken in about $1,300 at that point, but I know we've taken in more since then. Of course, we've also had some expenditures. But the original allotted budget that the council approved was $2,500, but I feel like with everything that we took in, that we did really well and didn't use nearly probably what our budget is. But I'll have the official numbers probably in about a week once everything runs through our system, so I'll get back to y'all on that. So that's about it. I just appreciate everyone's help and think it was a great day, and it was great to see the community come together.
They did an outstanding job.
That's the truth.
I mean, all of them.
You just can't say enough good about them.
And I heard no complaints anywhere. All right,
Now, wait a minute, Tom.
Well, wait.
There were some complaints about the heat.
Well, you gotta go to higher.
Yeah. That's beyond us. That's beyond us, yes.
Item number 7, report and discussion on the City of Temple's preliminary plan for events at Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. Mr. Johnson.
All right. The committee intends to probably early next week get together for a debrief on the Founder's Day and look at what we did well, look at what we need to improve. So if council has any thoughts on those matters and you want to share them for the committee to consider at that meeting, you can come to the meeting or send them to me, and that'd be fine. As far as Thanksgiving and Christmas plans and so on, that meeting will be scheduled in October. Guessing somewhere in the middle, no later than the end of the month, of course. And so we look forward to those. And with the standard they set for Founder's Day, we expect a great support and great help on bringing and keeping those events as good as they have been, and maybe even help them get a little better.
Any questions? That concludes the community development.
Thank you, sir. Personnel Committee, Mr. Richard Bragel.
Mr. Osborne.
Just very briefly, we are continuing to work on the recruitment process for the finance director. Myself, the mayor, Ms. Bivens, will have a report for you sometime in the next couple of weeks, I will.
Okay. The employee handbook, if you prefer to have a digital copy, Kristen can send you a digital copy. Howard and I are working as hard as we can to get through to do all the preliminary stuff, and we're going to have a work session to deal with this. But going ahead, and what we're trying to do is keep from reinventing the wheel by, he's working diligently on the old and I'm working on the new, looking to just make sure that it's matching our charter and what we want. So you can start looking through it, especially those areas that Mr. McRae told us to be focusing on. And also, each one of you have an envelope that says personal, confidential, and privileged. So take a look at that, and we will be dealing with that in executive session Monday. So there needs to be an executive session on the deal. That's it. Unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, sir. All right, that brings us to closing comment. Ms. Bivens?
None, thank you.
Mr. Walden?
I was wondering, can Kristen have us a report on the financials on the Thursday or Monday for our meeting?
I hope that we have everything processed by then. If not, I'll give you at least what we have thus far, and then definitely complete the report whenever it's available.
Mr. Wallace?
No comment.
Mr. Bradley?
No comment.
Mr. Osborne, anything further? All right, I hear a motion that we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, let it know, saying aye.
Aye.